Hello, it's Ameer and Caleb here down at the Go Lounge, and we're going to teach you how to play Galaxy Truckers. To start off with, each player gets given a ship according to the round that is taking place. From there, you move on to the building phase, where you'll build your ship.
Alright, so the building phase, essentially your ship is comprised of several of these squares, and in these squares you can put various bits into your ship. When you're playing this game, all the pieces that you can pick are in a communal pool, all face down, that you pick from one at a time. You fit these pieces into your ship, like so. And as you place more pieces, your ship will expand. I'll go over the various types of pieces you can place in your ship. So the first piece we've got here is the cabins. So these cabins give you these little guys, these humans. Your base cabin gives you 2 humans, and each one of these in your ship gives you 2 humans per cabin. Next are engines. So engines power your ship, allow it to go forward. Pretty logical. These are the engines here. So you've got these single engines, which require no power, and you've got these double engines, which require batteries, which I'll cover later. You also have lasers. Now lasers help you fend off pirates, smugglers, meteors, and they're similar to the engines. You've got single lasers, which require no power, and the double lasers, which require a unit of energy from the batteries. In addition to engines and lasers, you have these shields. Now shields help protect your ship from errant meteorites or whatever else may hit your ship. They shield the half of the ship that they're facing. So for example, this ship, it protects this side of the ship and the front of the ship, whereas something aligned this way protects this side of the ship or this side of the ship. To use those, you need batteries. Now, what are batteries? These are batteries. Now, these battery pieces give you 1 capsule per battery. So, for instance, this would give you 2 battery capsules. Now, whenever you use one of these components that requires a battery, you take that off your ship. If you run out of batteries, you simply can't use those components. Now, on your travels, you'll be collecting goods. Now, how do you store those goods? Well, you need to store them in containers. Now, you've got 2 different types of container here. You've got the white containers, which can store these 3 types of goods, the blue, green, and yellow goods. And you've got these, the red goods. They're for hazardous materials. The hazardous materials are also worth the most, which is why you need a special container for them. Now, in addition to being able to store humans in your ship, you can also pick up 2 different types of aliens. So you see here, you've got a brown alien and a purple alien. Now, to get an alien, you need 2 parts. You need a cabin piece, and you also need an alien life support piece. Now, when they're connected together, instead of giving you 2 humans, this will give you 1 brown alien. Now,
Sorry, you can pick to have either 1 brown alien or 2 humans in that container.
Yes, you may pick. Brown aliens give you a boost to your engine power, and similarly, purple aliens give you a boost to your laser power. So they're handy to have. Now the last bit, which doesn't actually do anything on its own, are these pieces, which are connectors. Now these pieces, while they don't do anything on their own, they help you to connect up the other pieces of your ships. So obviously, not every spot, sometimes you'll need a special piece to get you over to somewhere where you couldn't get to with another piece. So these just help keep your ship intact and together.
Absolutely. The important part about connecting pieces together is that they have to connect via these connections. This is a single connection, this is a universal connection, and this is a double connection. Now, universal connections, as the name states, can connect to either a single or a double connection, whereas a single connection can only connect to another single connection or a universal, and a double can only connect to another double connector. Alongside these, there are some other very specific rules for how you place your ship components. For example, engines must always face to the rear of your ship, while cannons can face in any direction. They must have at least 1 gap between any other piece in the direction they're facing. For example, if a cannon was placed like so, you could not have a piece here, even if it was otherwise validly connected. It would have to be at most there. The other rule that comes into play when placing pieces is that each piece must be connected to something else if it wants to be beside another piece. For example, this is a valid connection, and so is this. However, this is no longer a valid connection because there is a connector facing a non-connected piece. You can, however, have a piece non-connected as long as there's no spot there, and this is called an empty connection. It's basically an empty connection, and there are penalties. Exposed connection, and there are penalties for that later in the game. Once you've built your ship, you're going to take off into space, where various adventures can occur.
Okay. So there are various types of adventure cards in the game. So I'll just flip a couple. So this is open space. This just means your ships move forward in space. Now your ships moves forward as far as the amount of engines you have. If you have engines which require battery power, when it's your turn, you choose to power them by consuming a battery unit for each engine piece that you're using. And so in turn, you just move your ships forward on this track here. So at the beginning of the game, you'll all start at various locations, depending on in what order you finish building your ships. And say, for example, I had 5 engines, I would move, and I was the blue ship, I would move this forward 5 pieces, like so. The next bit, we've got Meteoric Swarm. Now, Meteoric Swarm, essentially, all your ships get bombarded with a swarm of meteors. Now, the way that you determine where meteors hit is through rolling of dice. Now, in this example, you've got a meteor, a big meteor, that's coming from the front. Big meteors can only be blocked by lasers in front of the column in which they hit. So for example, with this meteor, I'll roll the dice here. 2, that would be fantastic. That would miss our ships entirely. But say for example, we rolled something like, not a 2.
Another 2.
Like 7. So 7 means it would come and hit the first component here. Now if it was a laser, it would protect you and you'd be fine, but if it wasn't, that piece would get blown away. So if this was at the front of your ship, it would go and it would get stored in this top area for damaged components.
However, if you had a laser anywhere in that row, correctly placed, you could in fact fend off a large meteor.
Yes.
The same applies for sideways shots, such as along here. You will have to have a cannon in one of the rows which is adjacent to wherever it is getting shot. For example, if you had a cannon placed here, you could protect yourself against meteors coming in rows 9, 8, and 7. The downside to this, however, is that cannons facing sideways or backwards only count as half their total amount of points when you decide to use them for strength values later on in the game. The other part of the meteoric swarm is the small meteors, and these are too small to be hit by lasers, yes. So they will hit whatever they roll against. However, they will bounce off that component if it is correctly placed. If it does have an exposed connection, however, it will break off that component and any components that are solely attached to that.
That's correct. One thing you can do with the small meteors that you can't do with the large meteors is protect yourself with shields. Now, with the shields, however they're placed, shields the entirety of the ship depending on the sides they're facing. So, as I mentioned, this would protect you from these sides. Now, if a piece of yours is going to get hit, you could choose to protect it by using your shield by spending 1 energy token. That would protect your ship for that particular meteor only. So if you get hit by more meteors later on, you have to use another energy, another battery unit to protect yourself.
The great benefit to shields is that you really only need 2 of them to protect your entire ship, as long as you have enough batteries.
That's right.
There are also some other actions that we'll try and find now.
Alright. So this one is called planets. Now planets allow allows you to pick up goods. Now, the person who's in front gets first choice at what goods they would like to take. So as you can see here, there are 4 different planets that you can land on. So if I wanted to select one of the planets I want to land on, I'd put my ship token on top of that, and I'd say I'm claiming that. The choice now goes to the next person. So now yellow would get the choice of the 3 planets. Yellow could choose to stop at this first planet, or the second one, or the third one, or choose not to take one at all. If they don't take it, choice goes on to the next person until either everyone has got to pick, or there are no planets left. The downside to taking planets, they give you goods which are worth credits, but you also lose a certain number of days. So say, for example, blue was the only one to take planets in this scenario. Blue would then move back 3 units. So they'd move back 3 spots on the track. This would happen to everyone in turn, starting from the person at the back to the fore.
Correct. There are also some other adventures that can take place, such as...
Okay, we've got one here called Abandoned Ship. Now, Abandoned Ship, this is what your humans are good for. If you find an abandoned ship on your travels and you're the person in front, you have the first choice. If you use 3 of your humans from your ship, you can claim the bonus of 4 credits. If you don't choose that, then the next person gets a choice, and so on. This would cost you 1 space day.
As well as the 3 people.
As well as the 3 people. Now, sometimes in this game you get hit by pirates, or in this case, smugglers. Now, to beat off smugglers, you have to have the prerequisite number of lasers to fend them off.
And that's where laser strength comes back into it.
Yes.
Forward-facing lasers are worth 1 point each. Double cannons are worth 2 points if you decide to power them with battery. And side-facing cannons are worth half this value, with side-facing lasers being worth only 0.5 of a strength, and a side-facing double cannon that you decide to power being worth 1 point.
In addition to that, you also, if you have an alien in your ship, that gives you a bonus to your laser power, provided you have a laser on your ship.
Correct. As long as you have a power of more than 0, the purple alien will provide you with 2 additional power. However, these are only valid for the 2nd and 3rd rounds of play. Also, if you lose to the smugglers, you'll lose 2 of your most important cargo. If you beat them, however, it will cost you 1 space day, and you'll gain the value down here. If you lose, the next player in line has to try and fend off the smugglers, and it continues on until someone wins. If you tie with the smugglers, however, you get to survive, and the smugglers will pass on to the next player, except you won't get to gain any of the rewards.
So likewise, you have similar threats like pirates, where instead of losing goods, you take shots. Now, shots are similar to meteors, except that
you can't actually defend against a large shot, and small shots can also be defended by a shield. However, if you get hit by a shot, it will automatically take away a part of your ship.
And if you beat the pirates in this case, in addition to not taking any shots, you would also claim the 4 credit bonus, but lose a space day.
Yes, you get the cold hard cash straight away. There should be, I think, one more.
Okay.
That is the abandoned station. This means that the first player to come across this, if they have the requisite amount of people, in this case 6, they can immediately claim those goods for the cost of 1 space day. If they can't, the opportunity will then get passed to the next player in line, and so on, until someone has claimed it or no one has.
One of the important things to note with the abandoned station is, unlike with the abandoned ship, you don't actually lose the humans. You just have to have that amount. So if you have 6, you can claim the bonus, but you won't lose the 6 in doing so. One other card that we've got is Combat Zone. Now, Combat Zone pits you against your fellow galaxy truckers. You get measured in a number of different metrics, and whoever's got the lowest amount in each loses that much. For example, the player with the lowest
humans will have to go back 3 days. The player with the lowest amount of engines loses 2 people. The player with the lowest amount of weaponry will take 1 small shot and 1 big shot. Furthermore, if you're tied, the player who is in the lead between the 2 ties is the one who takes the losing amount for it. For example, if you're in first place and last place and you both tied for the lowest amount of people, the person in first place will go back 3 days.
One other type of event, we've got these special events, these yellow ones. Now, these yellow ones, they do different things depending on which one they are. This one is called Stardust, and you simply would lose a flight day for each exposed connector. So for each connector on your ship which isn't connected to anything else, you would lose a day. Simple.
So once you have completed all the actions that take place, there are 4 lots of actions that are determined by this here. So on round 1, you would have 2 round 1 actions. On round 2, you would have 2 round 2 actions and 1 round 3 action. And 1 round 1 action. And on round 3, you have 2 round 3 actions, 1 round 2 action, and 1 round 1 action. This is to extend the game as you're getting larger and larger ships as the game goes on, and it also provides more sway because whoever is in first place gets 12 credits, second place 9 credits, 6 credits, and then 3 credits for last place, as well as a bonus of 6 credits for having the least amount of exposed connections at the end of the galaxy trucking.
Something to note, in regards to those rewards increase depending on which round you are. So those are the round 3 rewards. The round 2 rewards you'll see are less, and the round 1 rewards are less than that. During your travels, you may lose pieces of your ship to meteors or laser fire or pirates or what have you. Any piece that you lose, you put in the top corner of your ship. Now, every piece you lose will cost you a credit at the end of that round. However, the amount you can lose is capped at a certain cost. So, beginning with your first ship, if you lose up to 5 pieces, you lose credits per piece you lose. But if you lose 5 or more pieces, you just lose 5 credits.
Because your ship is insured.
Yes, your ship is insured, but not so insured that you won't lose some money along the way.
Yeah. Also, whoever is the first person to land on a planet each round determines how the timer will be flipped. In the first round of building, the timer starts here, and the player who is the boldest can decide that they would like to flip the timer, and then timing begins. You basically have that much more time to build your ship. Once all the time has drained out, it gets moved to the the start timer.
Yes, so the person who starts around, you flip over the timer, and then once it runs out of time, the first person to have completed their ship will take this first player token, put it in front of them, and then they can choose to flip it onto the start thing. Now, the remaining players have that much time to complete their ships.
After each time around, it shifts along, and then one person can flip it. But on the start one, you can only flip it if you have completed your ship. To that extent, whoever landed on a planet first in the previous round is the first player to flip it for the subsequent rounds, but once it has gone down 1, i.e. from 2 to 1, any player can flip it as long as they're feeling bold enough. Back to building, you can only build your ship with one hand. All the pieces are placed face down in the middle, and when one player says go, each player will reach in with this hand and grab a piece, and and only once it is over their board may they reveal it. Once it's revealed, you can then decide whether you want to keep that piece and place it in a legal position, or if you don't want that piece, you return it and place it face up so that all future players can see it. Now you can only grab with one hand, and you cannot flip over the table pieces. They can only be flipped once they are above your board.
An important thing to note, when you're building a ship, once you've placed a component into your ship, that's where it stays. You can't remove it afterwards. So if you put something somewhere where you don't want it, too bad. You're going to have to build around that. So it's careful. You have to be careful when deciding which pieces you want to put in your ship.
You can also keep up to 2 pieces in your broken off pieces bay, and you can then use them to be placed later on if you do like those pieces but cannot place them yet. Any pieces that are here at the end will stay there and cost your max credits. However, you can place them back in the center at any time. Finally, if you have an illegal ship placement, for example, like so, you must remove 1 or more pieces of the ship until it is a legal ship. For example, this piece would have to be removed because it cannot be backing on, a no connector cannot be backing onto another connector. Likewise, a single connector cannot be attached to a double connector. So this would be another indication of an invalid ship. Engines also must be pointing to the rear and must have 1 space behind them. So while this would be valid for an engine if it was actually connected, for example, if this would be a valid engine, if not for, say, this taking place. This does make it legal, however. Finally, once all is said and done, you gain your space credits.
Yeah. So you gain credits based on the events that you've completed. You can also turn in any goods that you've collected during the round. So each good is worth a certain number of credits, which you can see up here. So the hazardous materials, the red ones, are worth 4 credits per unit. The yellow ones worth 3 per unit, greens 2, and blues 1. You just turn those units into the bank and you collect the amount of credits that you deserve. So if you have 1 of each, that gives you 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1, that would give you 10 credits. And you would claim 10 credits. Once you've collected all your goods, collected all your money, you determine your losses. So any pieces of your ship that are broken off, you take those away from your earnings that round. If you've got more than the maximum, you take that amount. So if you've got more than, in this case, more than 8 pieces destroyed, you just lose 8 credits, and you figure it out. If that takes you down past 0, your losses are capped at 0.
Yeah. Also, that's basically the game, except for giving up. Now, you can give up at any point during a round and sell off your cargo at half price. However, there are a couple of reasons that you may have to give up. If you are in open space and have 0 engines, then you have to give up. If you get lapped by another player, then you have to give up. And if you have no pieces left, then you have to also, and there is an attack, then you have to also give up. Sorry, if you have no cannons left and there is an attack, then you have to give up. That's basically Galaxy Trucker. We hope that you would join us down here at the Go Lounge to potentially play some, and stick around on the channel to find out more how to play various different games. Next up is Seasons.